Greetings, YouTube. Today we're going to take a look at a very large knife. This is the Cold Steel Frontier Bowie or Bowie, depending on how you want to pronounce that. I got some Amazon points for having my 25th anniversary at my company, so I decided I would do something and get something big and silly, and I got something big and silly. So let's take a look at the sheath first. We have here, this is a really nice blued steel cap, and really going to appreciate that on this thing because it does have this nasty point, and I really like this look. It just screams 19th century to me. Um, we have an additional reinforcement here. Um, we have a flap, this flap right there, which is for if you want to have a sash style attachment for your knife, so you slide it into a sash so it sits like this, and then this would go through the belt or sash, and then you clip it down so that would hold it so that you wouldn't be using the belt loop, and that gives you a very secure, tight against the body vibe. And some people like that carry, but you also have a large loop, woohoo, big loop. And a nice thing in the big loop is the big loop moves because this is a big knife. So you're not necessarily going to want to be drawing it vertically. If you have it hanging, you may very well want to be drawing it this way, so at an angle. Because again, big knife. Hanging it like this when you're not using it, that's fine. When it comes to drawing, you may very well want to be drawing it like that. Okay? Um, I was impressed by the fact that this is nice thick leather here. It is stitched well. It is also riveted. So riveted and stitched, which I think is a nice touch. I was actually kind of impressed by the sheath. The knife as well, but I was impressed they actually took the effort in producing the sheath to make something that was decent quality and had some nice accoutrements. And again, this bluing is really quite pretty. So this is a little snug because I just got the thing, so that will wear in slightly. So here she be. Here is the Frontier Bowie. Now, obviously, she's very dark because she has a wonderfully blued surface. Obviously, the sharpened edge is not blued, but the rest of it, look at that. Look at the bluing on that blade. This is quite honestly one of the best examples of bluing I have ever had the pleasure of dealing with. It is just a beautiful job. They did an excellent job with this bluing. I knew that I heard that it was blued and stuff, so I'm like, again, it essentially cost me nothing. So I'm like, okay, I'll take a look at this thing and see if I like it. And here she is. And this is, of course, the classic Bowie shape, and it is a big blade. This is a 12-inch blade. Got a nice little choil down here for your sharpening, and I guess technically, if you really wanted to, you could come in like this if you wanted to get something close. But this is a 12-inch blade. I don't know how much close work you're going to be doing, but I guess you could make feather sticks and stuff like that with this, so it's quite possible. It's got a wonderful fuller. It's got a nice swedge, which is nice and even. With a knife this big, I was concerned that maybe the swedge wouldn't be ground evenly, but it is. It's nice and even. Comes to a nice little point. This is 1/4 inch until you get to the swedge, and then you get a distal taper to the tip. And that tip is very pointy, very pointy. You be careful with that. This came out of this box with a nice, reasonable edge. It's not shaving sharp, but it's also quite dangerous. It has a wonderful S curve. I mean, look at this thing. That classic, wonderful S curve. And I guess in theory, if you were going to be in combat with this thing, you'd be able to catch a blade coming in like this. But by and large, this is just going to protect your hand from the daily grind. And speaking of the daily grind, um, this is not a knife for doing delicate camp work. I mean, you could prepare food with it, I guess, if you wanted to. But obviously, it's going to be an excellent example for batoning. I mean, you hit this thing here because again, this is 1/4 inch. Hit this here, you're not going to have to worry about damaging your blade with the stick. And also, this thing is so large that if you were to come in at an angle like this and do this, you could draw knife this thing. Seriously, if you needed to debark something, I'll wipe the fingerprints off this when I'm done. If you needed to like debark something, you could draw knife this thing because it is so big. Now, the one thing I was concerned about when I ordered it is the grip. The grip is a little odd looking because you can see it's very rectangular, and it I thought, well, a lot of these knives are made for people who have big hands. 'Cause I have medium-sized hands for a guy. My fingers are a little on the short side. Um, but this is comfortable. I don't know how comfortable would we be for hard use. I'm never going to use this hard. I got this simply because I thought it was beautiful and because I had the opportunity, and I wanted to get myself a big silly Bowie because I'd never officially owned a big silly Bowie, and now I do, and that bluing is just so beautiful. But it is quite comfortable, and because of that shape, you're not going to have to worry about rotating in your grip at all when you're using it. And if you have larger hands than I do, it's going to be even more comfortable. And also because this is wood, if you really felt compelled to, you could round these edges over and make it a little bit closer to what your ideal is. Though I will say that I find this very rectilinear vibe here not necessarily fits the kind of the wonderful curves of the blade. This is fine, but I think this is a slightly strange choice. I do. Um, though I do appreciate that it's not just extraneous wood that you're having to lug around. So if you had it come out to a curve like this, it may look visually better, but you would have been lugging around more stuff than you need to carry. You got three Chicago bolts with straight heads. For those that don't know what a Chicago bolt is, it's a cylinder that's threaded on the inside, put it on one side, and the other half goes in the other, which then screws on the inside, and it draws itself closed and holds two things together. You see them a lot in knives, lots of knives. In fact, if you see pins in a knife, just like solid metal heads, sometimes those are actually Chicago bolts that have been ground down. So they're Loctited together, all done, and when they shaped the grip, they ground them flat. So those could actually be Chicago boats in and of themselves, not necessarily pins, particularly if they're large. Um, Large pins are not common, so that the actual barrel on this is going to be smaller than the diameter of the screw head. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, it's full tang. I mean, it comes all the way down here, but it isn't exposed here. So this is a saddle. This is a saddle shape that slides over the tang, which again is full. It comes all the way down. It just isn't necessarily the same width all the way to the end. And I gotta be honest, I own a lot of knives and I've seen a lot of knives in my day. Um, and I don't know if I've ever seen a saddle style design. I mean, I've seen tangs, that slide into something. I've seen which would be full tangs, which were just two slabs, or um, whether it would, regardless of what the material in question was. But I don't think I've um, ever seen a saddle design like that, and I find it interesting. It's not a bad design. It doesn't affect the functionality uh, of the device in any way, but it is an unusual choice. I would be interested in finding out if this is based on a historical design, I mean, its potential, or if this was just a aesthetic decision made by the folks at Cold Steel. So another thing I noticed about this, there's no markings on this. I can find no logos, no stamps, no nothing, which I thought was strange for a commercial knife not to have anything on it. And it's very well done. It's a very pretty pattern. The bluing is some of the best I have ever seen. Just that's so damn pretty. Um, so yeah, I'm thoroughly happy with this thing. Yes, it's a big silly Bowie that I'm never actually going to carry. In fact, I'm going to probably hang it up on my wall and take it down occasionally, make sure that the blade is not there's no moisture built up in there, um, and just enjoy the fact that I own it, and it's just wow. Look at that. Okay, I have to tell you one thing. This has set the bar for bluing. Seriously. This is the bar by which I will be judging every other blued piece of steel I ever have the opportunity to interact with. So I will give kudos to Cold Steel for producing not only something that I find very aesthetically pleasing in its lines. I appreciate its quality, but really appreciate, the fact that they went above and beyond on that coating because they didn't have to. They could have just done something that was a hell of a lot cheaper, and they did a great job with this thing. Look at that. Woohoo. All right, so this has been the Cold Steel Frontier Bowie, which I was 1917 is the number attached to the display. Um, and if you get a chance to handle one of these, do so. And if you like a big silly buoy that is way larger than you probably ever going to need in your life, this be something that you definitely might want to take into consideration.